All right, so let's take a look at this last section of chapter 10. And we learn about relationships because we want to get to this last section, which is how exactly do we communicate about relationships, mostly to each other. I'm not talking about you talking to someone else about a relationship you have, but you talking to a romantic partner, a friend, a family member. Okay, so what we're going to look at is specific skills that we can all use to maintain interpersonal relationships and improve them. Okay, so this is a review way back to chapter 1, that every time we communicate, there is both a content dimension and a relational dimension to the message. Okay, so the content dimension is the subject being discussed. So I say something like, shut the door when you come in. Well, what's the content? Door, needs to be in the shut position. But there's also a relational dimension, which lets people know how the communicators feel towards one another. So there's a difference in saying, hey, shut the door when you come in, and hey, shut the door when you come in. You can tell then the second one, I'm a little bit ticked off with the person who's left the door open. Okay, so we touched on this in chapter 7 also, that it tends to be the nonverbal component of the message that shows the relational dimension. It's our tone of voice. It's possibly our body language. And so we will do some exercises in class similar to, how could you act while saying, can you help me for a minute? While communicating these 6 different relational dimensions: superiority, helplessness, friendliness, sexual desire, irritation, and aloofness. Okay, aloofness is like being standoffish, keeping yourself away from somebody else. Okay, so there's another aspect to the communication that we do, which is called meta communication, which is communicating about communication, or communication about communication. So we say things like, I remember my as a child, my father saying, usually to my sister, who was the bold one, I don't like it when you use that tone of voice with me. That's a communication about communication. Or as the book says, I wish we could stop arguing so much. Or I appreciate how honest you've been with me. And on page 291, they talk about how metacommunication plays out online. And that would be in the box called Focus on Research. That would be a good thing to take a look at. Okay, so we need metacommunication to keep our relationship moving along well. And if we've goofed, or if the other person has, how do we fix it? Okay. There's a question, and I don't have an answer for this because I'd like us to talk about this. Why? There's some people who won't talk about it. Why? Any idea? Okay. There is a term called relational work, which is the meta communication that focuses specifically on problems that we're having in relationships. Okay, so now we're going to look at the idea of how do we maintain and support relationships. Okay, so remember, relational maintenance is the communication that keeps relationships running smoothly. And there are 5 strategies that we can use. All right, first one is positivity. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think it's important to say there's a concept, relatively new concept these days, called toxic positivity, where people are just always so upbeat and they don't admit in themselves, or they won't allow other people to be anything less than positive. And that is just not healthy. So We're just talking about wherever you can be positive, which also leads into openness. The what is I know that when I was growing up, there definitely was a little bit of certain things should not be discussed. And I think things are changing, and it is important for us to be open about the things that are going well in a relationship and the things that we don't like in a relationship. Because remember, I think I said this last week in class. Um, we at some level expect people to be mind readers and to know how we're feeling about something. But unless we're open, people really don't understand. Okay. The next one is assurances. And this is letting the person know that they are important to you and that you enjoy being in a relationship with them. The fourth one is sharing. Oops, I got these out of order. So sharing tasks is, doing things together. And then social networks is we're not talking about online. We're talking about, let's say, I'm going to say that in a romantic relationship, each person is involved with the other person's family and friends. That's how we share our social networks. All right. I spelled another word wrong. A lot of people now, I think more than ever, people are in long distance relationships, and social media has definitely helped with this maintenance and support, because before we relied on writing letters, which took such a long time, or making a phone call, which before cell phones was ridiculously expensive. Okay, so there's a subset of maintaining and supporting relationships, which is offering social support. So the first one we talked about was, just the day-to-day, I don't know, putting oil in the car to keep it running smoothly. And social support is when things are going wrong for the other person. How do you support them emotionally? So your friend has, well, I know in this environment, it's not likely that they will have lost their job and can't find another one. But let's imagine this was pre-pandemic, okay? And they say, yeah, I was just, the company that I was downsized, I was laid off, I was fired. So you show them, oh man, that really sucks. What can I do for you? Okay. Well, then that leads to informational support, where you say, informational support, which is, I just was at Price Chopper and I see that they're hiring, or I just drove by this factory and they've got signs up that they're hiring. So the person went to an interview and it didn't go well. I know they don't even do interviews anymore. It's all online. You can say, I noticed that you said, about 70 times in the first 2 minutes. We want to back off from that. And then instrumental support is, I can drive you to, I could drive you to the interview. I have a suit you could borrow. Okay. So, I know that for a lot of people, when the situation is, when you know that someone that you have a relationship with is in a challenging situation, we think, oh God, I don't want to make it worse by saying the wrong thing. But what I hear over and over again is the wrong thing is to say nothing. So you can always start by saying, I don't even know what to say, but I want you to know that I'm here to help you however I can. Okay. Now, what if you or the other person has done something and the relationship is damaged? Okay. Someone has created a relational transgression. I like that word. All right. So one partner, and again, romantic relationship, friendship, family relationship, even work relationship. So they violate a term of the relationship. whether this was something that was explicitly stated or whether it was just implicit. Okay, so I'm trying to think. In the implicit are the things that we feel we don't even have to talk about because it's just obvious. And then sometimes when we realize it's not obvious, we make it explicit. In my family, when we go for my daughter has come to visit. When she goes back to New York City, I say, please text me when you get home. And she very rarely does, until I text and say, did you make it home yet? And she's, oh yeah, I've been home for 2 hours. Okay, so let's say that is a minor transgression. Okay, it's not a big deal. A significant transgression could be, who knows, you're in a romantic relationship and the other person has cheated on you. Okay, I would say that is definitely a significant transition. We have transgressions that are social versus relational. So a social rule would be something like, we're at a party and I say really loudly so everyone can hear. I say to my husband, "You have had way too many shrimp. Look at how big your belly is." Okay, oof. That you just don't say those things socially. That's transgressing a social rule. A relational rule would be something that exists within the relationship, like the one I talked about with my daughter texting me when she gets back to her apartment. It could be that the person did this deliberately. They set out to hurt you, or it could be that they had no idea that what they did was going to be so hurtful to you. So that is unintentional. And the last kind of relational transgression was it a one-time thing? Or was it something that was incremental, that it happens over and over again? Okay, so these are I'd like you all to think about times that maybe, and I'm not going to ask you to share with the whole group unless you're comfortable, when either you or the other person in the relationship has committed these kinds of transgressions and how you felt about it, because this is going to lead us into the next section, which talks about relational repair. So somebody has done something that has damaged the relationship. How do you go about fixing it? Hard though it may be for a lot of people, you need to talk about what happened. Okay? Because remember, I'm walking around the house, I'm stomping, I'm slamming doors, I'm sighing. Okay? And so everyone knows that I'm upset, but do they know exactly what I'm upset about? So it's important to talk about the violation, to ask questions. Let's say you are the one who did something. You should be able to say, I know that you're upset with me, but what was it that I did that made you so upset? And then when they tell you, you have to listen non-defensively. Well, I was totally justified. Well, I had a hard day at work. Okay. This is really challenging, to listen non-defensively. We will talk more about this in chapters 12 and 13. Okay. And it is important to apologize, which is acknowledge responsibility, offer repair, express genuine regret. Okay. So you say something like, I know that when I was out later than I planned to be, and I didn't call you to let you know, that really upset you, and I'm sorry. I promise I will not do it again. Okay, so I've kind of combined the offer, the repair, and the expressing genuine regret. A word about apologies. When a person apologizes, they need to apologize for their own behavior. I'm sorry, I did such and such. Okay, I have a colleague who felt that a sincere apology was to say, I'm sorry you felt that way. That is not an apology. That's actually passive aggressive crap, but that's another story for another time. Okay. So, what if you are the person who has done something? No, sorry. Someone has done something that has hurt you, right? Why? Why should you forgive that person? They hurt you. Maybe it was a major transgression, and it was a huge relational transgression, and it was it was really significant, and this is something that they've done over and over again. Okay, we know that if we can forgive someone, it can improve physical and mental health of both of the people in the relationship. It also helps the relationship flow a little more smoothly. I was watching a video about a conversation between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa, and the Dalai Lama was saying, you know, I think this is really cute. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, his nickname is Arch. So Arch was talking about how important forgiveness is. Well, I mean, it makes sense. He's a dignitary in the church, and that's all. The Christianity is all about forgiveness. And one of the things that the Dalai Lama said was, yes, you need to forgive. Somebody says holding a grudge is like, oh gosh, what is it? Oh gosh, it's like, crap, I can't remember it exactly. Something along the lines of holding a grudge is like holding a lit match in your hand and expecting the other person to be burned. Okay, you're really only hurting yourself. So what the Dalai Lama says is he doesn't agree with the forgive and forget. He says, yes, you should forgive, but you should always remember, because you should learn something from this. Okay, so if forgiveness is difficult for you, as it is for me, it can be easier if you can remember times that you have needed to be forgiven and the fact that people forgave you for it. Okay, so here's a better quote than the one that I mangled from Richard Walters. When we have been hurt, we have two alternatives: be destroyed by resentment or forgive. Resentment is death. Forgiveness leads to healing and life. And what I'd like you to do is to watch the relatively short YouTube video, again from Soul Pancake, called The Power of Forgiveness. And I'm also going to upload the video called Calling to Forgive a Loved One. All right, so that is chapter 10, and I will see you all in class on Wednesday.